Hey, what's up? This is Sly88 Fry here. I think it's been about a month since I made one of these reaction videos. But, what is my computer doing? But, yeah, unexpectedly, James Rolfe of Cinemassacre, he uploaded an Angry Video Game Nerd episode already in February. It's kind of a surprise considering the last couple years he usually waited until like March or April or something. And an even more pleasant surprise, he's choosing a game that some people would call classic, Kid Icarus on the NES. He's probably going to do the one for the Game Boy as well, and I doubt he'll do the 3DS one because it's much more refined and a very different game entirely. Um, but anyways, the thing is, I honestly would never expect there to be an AVGN episode based on Kid Icarus, but um, I have actually played the game before. I was first introduced to it on was it on Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii, the Masterpieces menu, I think is what it's called. It had a bunch of demos of classic games that a lot of the characters were in before Smash Bros. And then I played it later on the Wii Virtual Console, and now I'm playing it on the Switch Online, and that game's brutal. Even the first level of the game is really hard. I mean, I've beaten the first level of the game, but it's just a brutally difficult game. I could imagine AVGN it would be really pissed off at the difficulty, but it might be kind of like the Ghosts and Goblins episode or Street Fighter 2010. Well, not Street Fighter 2010. I mean, he said he obviously enjoyed the game, but he went off on a tangent on a bunch of other Street Fighter games in that one, so it wouldn't be like that exactly, but it'd be like how he's reviewed games that he says are good, like Ninja Gaiden, but are just so frustratingly difficult. Um, let's give this a go. Seems like a really great choice for AVGN and kind of a change of pace from just about playing out bad game. Classic intro. Well, not classic, it's been around for a few years, I guess. 5 years? I don't know.
Welcome to the first Angry
known.
Video Game.
Okay, yeah. Your VPN ad. I don't. I mean, I might consider VPN someday, but I like the streaming sites I have now the way they are, I guess.
Of all the classic myths of ancient Greece, which would you say is the most remarkable? Would it be the story of Prometheus, the Titan War, the Trojan War, the quest for the Golden Fleece, the rescue of Andromeda? All would be very fine choices, as would be any of the legendary heroes, Achilles, Hercules, Perseus, Odysseus.
Yeah.
But there is perhaps one that stands out from the rest. It doesn't come from the writings of Plato, Homer, or Sophocles, but from Nintendo in the year 1987 AD. Not written with ink on papyrus, but as ROM data on a circuit board. Not sculpted in marble, but encased in a gray plastic cartridge. The tale in which I speak of is none other than Kid Icarus. I'm gonna take you back. No, I mean way back to the early days of the NES library. Think of it like the family tree of the Greek gods. There was the era of the primordials, followed by the Titans, and then the Olympians. The NES itself had its own primordial age, the black box games as we call them, because they all had that same uniform box art with those distinct pixelated characters that looked just like their in-game counterparts. These games were simpler to play. They were more arcade style, some of them being actual arcade ports like Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, Kung Fu, and Popeye. Of course, I can't forget Gyromite, since that game required a robotic operating buddy. Let's not dwell on that again. But without a doubt, the most prolific game of that launch was Super Mario Brothers, which would change the course of gaming history. So let's get into the next era of the NES library, which would be the equivalent of the Titans. This is when the true legends were born, and I do mean legend.
All right, some of you might actually not like that I'm going to say this, but I actually don't like the original Metroid. Now, granted, I was born in '88. I grew up in the '90s, so I mean, I could have been exposed to that game, but wasn't for some reason. Um, we did have an original NES for a time, but I don't really know what happened to it. Later on, we got a Sega Genesis, and we also got a Super Nintendo. And my first introduction to Metroid actually was on the Game Boy with Metroid 2, but it wasn't my own. I was borrowing someone else's. That was pretty fun. But my first introduction to really playing it was Super Metroid on, well, the Super Nintendo, and that game is absolutely incredible. Super Metroid, I think, might be one of the best, possibly the best Super Nintendo game ever made. Um, I finally played the original Metroid for the first time by getting. I had gotten Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance, and I thought the game itself, Metroid Zero Mission, was pretty good. I got disappointed with it at the time because I thought the game was short, but looking back at it, I realized it had some pretty cool stuff, like how you had to kind of almost be like Solid Snake when you were Zero Suit Samus because your weapons weren't strong enough to take down the pirates. But the within Metroid Zero Mission, you could actually play the original Metroid, and that was my first experience with it, and I did not like it. Um, I guess if you were growing up in the '80s and that was your first experience, I mean, it's going to be mesmerizing because it's the first Metroid ever made. But when you started with games that came out later that are much more refined and just much, much way better, not to mention they have a map system and not all the rooms look the same, um, it's kind of hard to like the original. A lot of the rooms look identical. It's that the vertical room with the that's blue with the platforms coming out the sides with the little brown guys going across. Um, these rooms look almost completely identical, and there's too many of them, and there's no map system. It's so hard to know where you're going in that game, which is why I'm not a fan of it, especially considering why does Samus have this pathetic pea shooter in the original game? It has such a short range. Like, I could grab that orange over there, toss it, and that would be a farther range than she's shooting her pea shooter in the game. I know you can get a longer beam, but the beam should have started out longer. You shouldn't have to. It's a futuristic, amazing suit made by an incredibly expansive Chozo species, and she had a stupid pea shooter in the first game. It doesn't make sense. I know in Metroid Zero Mission you start out with a short beam as well, but it doesn't take very long to get the long beam, and it's just much more playable than the original Metroid. Anyways, moving on. Wait, hold on. Let me fix this. Do am I forgetting my controls now? Oh, jeez. Oh wait, it was this, right? I'm a dumbass. I had forgotten the controls from it. It's been so long since I recorded one of these reaction videos. I actually forgot what my hotkeys are. It's pretty dumb. Now, as for these other games, oh yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2. I like that game. It's a good game. I think it's a fun game. I know it's a reskin of Doki Doki Panic. I think most people already know that by now. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed that game. I'm familiar with playing it on the Super Nintendo with Super Mario All Stars. Same with the first Super Mario Brothers. Um, I mentioned earlier I've played Kid Icarus, really brutally hard game. I actually have played the original Legend of Zelda, and I don't think it's a bad game. It's just that I was so used to A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo that it's really difficult to get used to playing the original Zelda. Just like with Kid Icarus, my first exposure to the original Zelda was on the Masterpieces collection or the game demos on Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Um, I tried playing the original Zelda, and I just find it really hard to play. I'm not saying that it's bad. Like Zelda 2, I want to give a chance to. Based on AVGN's review of Zelda 2, I want to actually play that game. But every time I play Zelda 2, I don't enjoy it. But the original Zelda, I don't think it's bad. It's just that it's a lot to get used to when I'm used to A Link to the Past, because in A Link to the Past, when you attack with your sword, it goes across like this, so you can attack from an angle if somebody's diagonal from you. Not to mention there's a spin attack as well. But it's just easier to change direction. You can move diagonally, while in original Zelda, the sword just appears in front of you like that, and it's quick. It's almost instant, sure, but like there's just so little range. There's not really any area when you attack, so it's just kind of hard to get used to. I don't know how many people have had that issue, but I think it's only because I'm used to the later Zeldas that I have difficulty with the original. But I don't think the original is a bad game. Now let's continue.
Of course, all those games were previously released on the console's Japanese counterpart, the Famicom. But for the sake of the story, we're talking specifically the North American NES releases, because it was in the summer of '87 when the Nintendo gods descended before us. They came in swiftly, like a summer thunderstorm.
Yeah.
The sky filled with smoldering clouds, churning, brewing in an electric tempest of gaming genius. And then the clouds opened up, and the golden rays of heaven shined upon us. And out from the rays, floating down, came 3 games. Zelda, Rejoice, Metroid, Hallelujah, Kid Icarus. Well, how would I describe that one? Well, I think the best way to sum it up would be with a very famous quote from the great mathematician, astronomer, inventor Archimedes. In his most famous publication, as he so wisely put it, in those immortal words, fuck it.
Sure, he said
yes,
that.
In this context, Kid Icarus had a lot to live up to. Is it remembered as an NES classic? Sure, it is. But comparably, it was the ugly duckling. Another way I can describe it is, if the Nintendo Summer of '87 was a hard rock metal festival, and you had all these amazing bands perform, like Iron Maiden, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, but the headliner was Nickelback.
Ooh.
Just think, after we first popped in Legend of Zelda and first took control of the elf-like hero Zelda, oh wait, that's Link. And then we fired up Metroid, playing as the armored suit space warrior, Metroid. Oh wait, that's Samus. Don't kid yourself. If you're as old as me, be honest. Did you know right away? Didn't you skip those opening prologues and ignore the manuals before you eventually found out the real names?
Same here.
With Kid Icarus, the character's name must be Icarus. It's the title of the fucking game. Well, guess what?
Pit.
It's Pit. Yeah. Well, why wasn't the game called Kid Pit? I guess it has sort of a shitty ring to it. We'll make a great movie, Kid Pit, starring Brad Pitt. Well, the original Japanese title translates to Light Myth, Palutena's Mirror. But for whatever reason, they changed it to translates to Light Myth, Palutena's Mirror. But for whatever reason, they changed it to Kid Icarus. What's the big idea confusing us like that? Those motherfuckers. But not like Oedipus. That guy was the original motherfucker.
What the fuck?
Anyway, the name Icarus comes from the story of King Minos, who built a labyrinth and put a monster in it called the Minotaur. The idea of labyrinths with monsters has probably influenced more video games than we can even begin to count. Anyway, to build the labyrinth, Minos used an architect by the name of Daedalus, like the Neo Geo Daedalus, which converts your arcade MVS Neo Geo cartridges to play on your AES Neo Geo console. The son of Daedalus was named Icarus, who he crafted a pair of wings for to escape his very own labyrinth that Minos imprisoned them in. The fate of Icarus was rather tragic, as he flew too high to the sun, melted his wings, and fell into the sea. With highs and lows, it's very similar to the fate of this game. It sits on a high pedestal, along with all the other highly appraised NES antiques. But has it aged like fine wine? Or has it spoiled into vinegar? Let's uncork this bastard and find out. So the nature of this game is simple. It's a 2D action platformer where you go around shooting enemies while collecting power-ups. Not much to explain. It has only 4 stages, though it's so difficult and grueling it feels more like 50. You're underpowered with a short-range arrow attack. Yeah, Pit sucks, but at least he's not like the hunter Orion. In the classic Greek myth, did you know how Orion was birthed? Do you want to know? Well, okay, Zeus Hermes and Poseidon urinate onto a bull's hide. They bury it, and out from it spawns Orion.
No.
Imagine if your entire existence came from getting pissed on. Not just being pissed on, but pissed on by a god. Not just by a god, but by 3 gods. That'd be the most epic golden shower ever. Wow. Holy
horrible.
shit. More like holy piss.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, back to the game. So the first stage is vertical.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry. I gotta ask, did the 3 gods piss on the bullhide at the same time? Like a big Olympian circle piss party? Okay, back to the game.
Can't stop thinking about it, Kenny.
No. Boy, you don't even want to know about the Egyptian myths. Okay, so
Oh my gosh.
Horus and Set are in competition to
What the
claim the
fuck?
throne of Egypt. Set
Super Mario
comes
Land
on
music.
Horus's
Underground.
hands, and then Horus comes on Set's lettuce, which he eats, and then the god Thoth tries to settle it and asks who came on who, and the seed of Horus actually answers with words. The crazy thing is, I'm not making this up. The ancient Egyptians did. Yeah, man. You thought going all the way back, those stories would be more intellectual than what we have nowadays? No, those gods were pissing and coming on each other all the time. 3,000 years later, Mike Judge creates Beavis and Butthead. Nothing's changed. Anyway, let's start over. So there's this game on NES called Kid Icarus.
Yes.
In this game, you fight enemies while
Oh,
collecting
I hate
power-ups.
that. Oh, I hate
Yeah,
that remake.
your health power-ups are, get this, wine. That's awesome. That's the best idea of a power-up I ever heard. It's a game made by Nintendo
Yes.
with kids in mind,
Yes.
where in order to get your health up, you must consume an alcoholic beverage. And a lot of it.
Yes.
Man, he drinks a lot of wine and he graduates to barrels. Full fucking wine barrels. I mean, just to get his health up, he's got to get shit-faced. And dude, wine drunk is the worst. I mean, his teeth are like reddish purple and he's staggering around. It's just... Why isn't this coming out? Oh, I forgot to take the bung out the bung hole. That's what it's called. Not a joke.
It is what it's called.
It's called.
Yeah.
And whenever you see wine, you better get it. You think you could go in that door and then come back and it'll still be there? Of course it isn't.
If there is one thing I really hate about Kid Icarus is those stupid doors. I have never found them useful. I go in those doors. There's like a million enemies. All I do is take a bunch of damage, and I don't get my health back. Like, what was the point of going in those doors? It's like a beginner's trap. If there's definitely one thing I don't like about Kid Icarus, it's those doors. They're why put something in a game that just hurts you like that?
Where's my fucking wine? Don't take my fucking wine away! So if the wine is health, what are the hearts?
ammo.
Well, even though they look exactly the same as the hearts in Zelda,
Yeah,
they're
they do.
currency. Well, thanks
That's
again
right,
for
yeah.
confusing us, Nintendo. You take those hearts and go into the store, but the store doesn't always have the item you want. So to get the item to appear, you gotta leave the store, and then come back in, leave the store, come back in,
Looks like it's the
the
same
store.
items.
come back in,
Are you sure that works?
leave the store, come back in, do it again, and again,
It's like
And
Who Framed
again.
Roger Rabbit.
and again. Oh, when you see the item you want, don't buy it just yet, because there's a special sale going on. To take advantage of the special sale, you must pick up the second controller and push A and B. How'd you know to do that? I know what you're thinking. Magazines, right? Nintendo Power. Find the clues that you can use. Nintendo Power! No, this was before Nintendo Power. Yeah, the power wasn't turned on yet. It was the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
So, what did you do before the internet and before Nintendo Power? Well, the answer
Instruction
is
manual?
you didn't do shit.
Wow.
If there was a strategy guide for this game, it would be only one page and say, good fucking luck. I mean, look at this shit. The first stage is vertical, and if you fall back, you're dead.
Yeah, it's like Castlevania.
What killed me?
Stupid.
The airspace I just occupied 2 seconds ago?
Yeah.
Oh man, not again. And when you die, take a guess what happens.
Usually
It
way
sends
far
you back to the beginning of the stage.
There's checkpoints here.
Staying alive is only the first issue, besides being a Bee Gees song. I'm funny. Next, the game becomes a where the fuck do you go type of game. Yeah, WTF DYG. One of those. Oh, jeez. I just barely missed that ledge. Now, how the hell I get back there, I don't know. You gotta get the map. It's essential. It basically looks like a waffle. No, really. It is a waffle.
Does look like one, yeah.
Yeah. Pour some syrup on that shit. Oh, but guess what? The map does nothing. In Zelda, you know, that other Nintendo-made game that came out around that same time, wasn't there a little dot to mark where you are on the map?
Yeah.
Here, there's nothing of the sort. That means it's a waffle. Did you ever have a waffle that had a dot on it telling you where to go? No. Pretty useless, I'd say, to rely on a waffle while fighting monsters and navigating through labyrinths. Okay, really now. It is the map. It's not lying, but you need to buy a pencil to mark your spot. A pencil. The character needs a pencil to mark the spot. He's in the middle of fighting monsters, then he has to stop and write shit down. Oh, look, I finally get to use something from my fashionable pouch right here. So he's like, oh, wait, hang on just a minute. I gotta write that. Oh, and meanwhile, he's like chugging just massive barrels full of wine, and he's got his sword and his shield and all that shit, and he's got his bow and arrow right here. Oh, shit. And then he's got like fucking torches and all that. And why does this torch make noise? Why does this torch have to make noise?
Oh,
but here's the deal. We accept it. It's made up video game shit. How does Link carry all that stuff?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's the kind of thing you're not meant to think about. But you kind of drew my attention to it there. Not to mention, it's a pencil in ancient Greece. But what'd you expect? He's writing with a pencil. With toxic green lead. Let's talk about the enemies. It's definitely a far cry from the monsters of Greek mythology. Actually, I think, wasn't it the 12 Labors of Hercules when he faced off against a bunch of flying Groucho Marx noses and glasses and Goombas? They're Goombas.
Like
Did Nintendo rip off Nintendo? Metroids?
Hey, don't forget. And oh yeah, those are Metroids. Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Which you can now play on Switch Online since they added Game Boy. They also added Game Boy Advance, but that's different games. Zelda: The Minish Cap is available actually, but anyway, in Link's Awakening, a Zelda game, you do occasionally go against Goombas and Shy Guys. I think weren't there Piranha Plants too? I don't recall. But then of course there's this dog chained to somebody's fence. And they call it a Bow Wow, but it's clearly a Chain Chomp. And if you trade enough of the items around that are literally in existence to trade to the right people, you'll actually get the Bow Wow or Chain Chomp, and he'll be basically attached to you and attack whatever enemies are on screen and kill them in one hit. So he's awesome. Problem is, some places are like, oh, I don't want to deal with that beast, so you can't actually talk to some people, but he does the Chain Chomp does make it possible to open certain passages. Unfortunately, I've never fully completed Link's Awakening. I hope to someday. I just, for some reason, always get stuck on the game. I've completed A Link to the Past all the way through multiple times. I've even beaten Ocarina of Time all the way through. But yeah, for some reason, I haven't completed Link's Awakening all the way through. But now that it's on Switch, I'm with the Game Boy thing, I think I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, Nintendo has recycled enemies from other games of theirs into their own. In fact, that flute in the original Zelda, it makes the same sound effect that you would later hear in Super Mario Bros. 3 when you use the warp whistle. It doesn't sound exactly the same, like it's slower in Super Mario Bros. 3, but the melody is the same.
Definitely. It's beyond question. These are Metroids.
Yes, they are.
Maybe the game's named after them. Maybe they're called Kid Icaruses.
No.
There's also the Sirens, which are naked as hell if you look in the manual. Imagine being 5 years old and seeing that. It's a Nintendo manual with tits! But the enemy you don't want to run into is the Eggplant Wizard. This guy was actually one of the villains on the show Captain N. So what happens here? He turns you into an eggplant. This isn't the only game to have eggplants.
Yeah.
They also appear in Adventure Island, and likewise, you don't want them.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with eggplants and NES games, but I hear that eggplants have sort of come back into fashion again recently. I don't know why. I'll have to look into that. Or not.
Or not. Yeah, eggplants, according to that Watch Mojo top 10 list I saw over a decade ago of top 10 healthiest vegetables. Yeah, I know it's a random subject, but I couldn't help but watch. Eggplant was number 10 on the list, by the way. So, yeah. I don't know. I guess Nintendo, at least back in the 80s, didn't like eggplant. There's the Eggplant Wizard on this game. There's, I believe there was eggplant on Ice Climbers as well. I don't recall if in that game they were bad or not. It's been a long time since I played Ice Climber. But yeah, there's like multiple different games on the NES where the eggplants are bad for some reason. It's like, what? Why?
So now that you're an eggplant, you can't attack and can't do much of anything. What do you expect? You're an eggplant. You're lucky to walk.
Yeah.
So now you just gotta avoid everything. It's like, hey, out of my way. Fucking eggplant coming through. You gotta get to the hospital. Yeah, there's an actual hospital room where they cure you of your eggplant status.
Yes.
Can you imagine walking into the ER and being like, hey, I'm an eggplant. Okay, here's some paperwork. Sit over there. The only thing I hate worse than the eggplant wizards are the bumblebees, or whatever they are. Look at this asshole. He just took my protection barrier away.
What the
I
hell?
worked hard for that. I had to buy the wand. Those things cost 700 hearts.
Oh,
and
shit.
that brings me to another point. The most annoying, taxing, and draining thing in the whole damn game is getting enough hearts to increase your health limit. You have to pick a spot and just kill enemies over and over. In fact, you better do it on level 1, because if you don't, your health meter will be so minuscule you won't last on the later stages. I'm not messing around. I'm saying you better get 999 hearts before even thinking about moving forward. It's mandatory. And is that fun? Is that what you want to do? Nowadays,
I wish I had known that before. Now, if to play Kid Icarus, I gotta start over. I actually got past the first level without doing that. Damn it.
they call this farming. Wonder who came up with that one. Farming?
Yeah.
On Nerd Farms, we take pride in growing weapons and health items for your gaming needs. We work with the most fertile ground where purple snakes respawn, delivering fresh to your character's inventory and health meter.
God.
Whether it be slices of pizza for your reptilian green friends, or boomerangs for your purple bat-suited hero, we raise the finest free-range turkey legs for your vampire whipping adventures. We're proud of the quality of our purple glowing orbs to keep you charged during those alien planet excursions.
Yes.
Direct from the land, we make our own blue shimmering capsules for your robot blasting escapades. This ain't just power-ups. This is family. Nerd Farms. Now that's what you call a seal of quality.
Yes. Okay.
Another term I hear a lot is grinding. You're not getting a skip for that one. A few other random things. The password
really
system goes by the term sacred words.
Those aren't words,
Never seen that one before, but I sure have some sacred words to say about this game. The bonus rooms have some weird rules. When you shoot the barrels and reveal the items, you can't touch the item or else it sends you out of the room. And if you expose the bad guy, call it the God of Poverty in the manual, then same thing. You don't get any items. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. So basically, you gotta cash out before you find that guy. Kind of like a press your luck round.
Yeah.
Big bucks. Big bucks. No God of Poverty. Ah! Along the way, you spend a lot of time freeing soldiers, or centurions as they're called in the manual.
Okay.
They've been turned to stone by Medusa, but after you've collected them, they fly around and help you out. So, of course, I had to get all those guys. Then I get to this purple dragon, which looks as if the Game Over worm from 3D World Runner and Barba from Zelda 2 got together, and, well, that's quite an image.
Okay.
Anyway, no fear, the centurions are going to help me.
Oh my god, that's terrible.
Well, that was a waste of time.
Yeah, they got their asses.
By the way,
handed
I should
to
have
'em.
known that red stuff on the bottom is lava. It confused me because it looked just like the hot springs that heal you, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Tang. Yeah, remember Tang? After
That's
going
still
through the
around.
final stage, which becomes a horizontal shooter, you come to the last boss, which looks like something Matt Groening would create. After you shoot out the eye, Medusa appears. And after she's finished, the game is over. You rescue the princess, she thanks you, and
Goddess
depending how well you
Palutena.
did, Icarus gradually becomes more muscular. Sort of like in Metroid, where
Yeah.
Samus wears less clothes. And then it says, Medusa was destroyed, and the light of peace returned to Angel Land, but in order to maintain peace, Pit's struggle continues? Oh no. There's a second loop? Well, I'm not playing that shit again. Kid Icarus? More like Kid Dickarus! I'd rather have a Cyclops take a big cycloptic shit all over my head while Medusa freezes me into stone, preserving the moment for all eternity!
It's horrible.
But it is a classic game in its own way. It's great, but it fucking sucks.
Oh
If
yeah, that
all the
makes a lot of
ancient
sense.
video game heroes had constellations,
those
I would say Icarus or Pit deserves a spot. Oddly, with all the Greek constellations, there never was an Icarus. It was only in 2018 when a distant star was discovered and named Icarus.
Okay.
At 14 billion light years away, it's speculated that it took so long for the light to reach Earth that the star has likely burned out by now. So to see it would literally be to look back into the past.
Wow.
And that sums up this game's legacy.
All right.
It shined bright in its glory days, and you can still relive those days through nostalgic memory. I induct this game into the Cosmic Nerd Hall of Fame. So
Okay.
next time you look up to the night sky, think of Icarus.
Sure, maybe. Good for you. Doom on Tiger Electronic Handheld. I saw that short, and yeah, I think that's from the Doom episode of AVGN for Halloween last year. I'll get back to Tiger later. I already commented on this video. Really surprising that he made an episode so soon. So, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for getting to this point of the video. I'm actually surprised he only talked about the original. I really expected him to bring up the second one that came out for Game Boy. Now, I have never played that, although I hope that gets added to the Game Boy lineup for the Switch Online, because I look forward to that as well. But yeah, Kid Icarus is definitely an interesting part of gaming history. Not as fondly remembered as other games that came out at the time or franchises that came out at the time. I mean, Metroid went on to make went on to have some amazing games. I still am not a fan of the very first game, but the first game definitely is a classic according to many people. I think the original Zelda is a great game. It's just a steep learning curve when I'm used to the later Zelda games. Like, I actually kick everybody. I kick ass in A Link to the Past. Like, I do. Like, I've beaten that game multiple times, and I just dominate the enemies I see. But when I do the original Zelda, I end up getting my ass kicked because I can't really control it as well. But they've gone on to have big franchises. Um, just 2 years ago was Metroid Dread, and it's I mean it's been 6 years since the Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, there've been other Zelda spin-offs or remakes since then, but not any new Zelda games. But there's one coming out now that's later this year or next year, whenever it's going to be. That's apparently a sequel to Breath of the Wild. It actually has a name. There is a name. I just for some reason have forgotten the name of the game. I don't know why. Um, Metroid Prime 4 has been hyped. It was revealed like 6 years ago as well, so it should be coming out at any moment. um, and I mean, obviously we got the Mario games. Can't deny Mario is everywhere. Um, the thing is, Kid Icarus. Yeah, there was that NES game. Then there was the Game Boy game that came out a couple years later, I guess. A few years later, I guess. And then gone. Didn't come back until Pit became a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, all the way in 2008. So that's like nearly 20 years later. But thanks to his popularity in that game, because he's a very playable character. Pit has been a character I've always liked playing as ever since Brawl. He's not my main. My main is Sonic, but he's always a character I've liked to play as. And he, then there was a new Kid Icarus for the 3DS a few years later. I believe was a launch title for the system actually. Never played it, but I'm curious about it. It does seem like a really well-made game, and it's very different than than the classic Kid Icarus. So it's one of those weird franchises where it's like it's classic, but then forgotten and then revived, which doesn't happen often. Who knows? Maybe that could be a thing with F Zero. Captain Falcon is from F Zero. And I think most people, including those who like to play as Captain Falcon in the five Super Smash Bros. Games, because he's in all of them, I think most people, including those who play as him, don't even know that he's from F Zero. Like, seriously. Captain Falcon is way more well known for being in Super Smash Bros. Than his original series. Like, I mean, I guess you could say Pit is as well, but Captain Falcon like is a massive case of it. There hasn't been an F Zero game since like 2005. you know. So basically, the series had releases for a total of like 15 years because the series was a launch. The original game was a launch title for the Super Nintendo in '91, and I think also the Super Famicom in 1990, the Japanese version. Um, so yeah, I'd love to see another F Zero game actually. Now that I know it's a little off topic, but I'd love to see another one because F Zero GX on the GameCube, that's the last console one, home console one. That game was actually really good. Like it still holds up. It's a damn good racing game, and it's easily the best of the entire franchise. I mean, cool. They went off on a high note, but like try again, make another one. Um, I mean, fortunately with Switch Online, there's the Super Nintendo. You can play the original F Zero, and I believe they have F Zero X for the N64 on the higher tier online package. I believe it's there, and I'm sure at some point for the Game Boy Advance, which is on the higher package of online, they'll add F Zero Maximum Velocity. That actually was the first F Zero game I played. I grew up in the '90s. I had all the consoles: Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, and 64. But I didn't play F Zero until F Zero Maximum Velocity on the Game Boy Advance, and then I would play the other F Zero games after. I played F Zero GX for the GameCube when it was new. I played F Zero GP Legend on the Game Boy Advance, which I think came out later the same year as GX. So that would be the last one that actually had a home release, I think. Um, that one I played way later. I actually already had a DS by the time I played F Zero GP Legend. Um, I think technically I've played every F Zero game because they just kind of neglected the series. F Zero AX I also played in an arcade. Its graphics are just like F-Zero GX, but it's an arcade. It used to be at Scandia, which is just one town south in Roanoke Park. I'm here in Santa Rosa. Um, I guess, yeah, I only played it one time. It was fun, but I got first place and didn't get a free play after that. Like, what the hell, man? Fortunately, Scandia still has the Mario Kart arcade, I believe, the third one. So that's really cool. Actually, last time I was there, I don't know if it's still there. They also have a Luigi's Mansion arcade, which is actually pretty interesting. But, anyways, back to Kid Icarus. It is an interesting series because honestly, it's like a lot of other games that came out at the time. Aside, well, not necessarily a side scroller, a 2D platformer, because there's also vertical stages. But it's one of those games that's, it's got fluent controls, it plays well, it's just brutally difficult. It's just like a lot of other games that came out back then. The difference is it was actually made by Nintendo. It wasn't like by Capcom, like Mega Man or Ninja Gaiden. It wasn't by Konami, like Castlevania. Um, but it's, I mean, it's not. I guess it's not a great game. It's not like amazing, but it's not really a particularly bad game. And yeah, I mean, Castlevania went on to be such a massive franchise that there's now an anime on Netflix. Mega Man went to become a pretty massive franchise as well. Um, I mean, now, yeah, Mega Man's been a playable character since the fourth Super Smash Bros. Game for the 3DS and Wii U. Wish they came up with a better name for that one. God damn. And then, Simon Belmont and Richter Belmont from the Castlevania games, playable in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, pretty big deal. And oh yeah, and Pit was playable since Brawl in 2008. Then there's Ice Climbers from Melee since Melee in 2001, except for the fourth game. They weren't not in the fourth Smash. And yet, as far as I know, the only Ice Climber game is the NES one. So I'm a little surprised by looking back at it. That's pretty surprising. Um, anyways, now I gotta talk about the episode. This was a really amazing episode. Honestly, it was a great way to start the year. It does seem like Kid Icarus is a fitting game for AVGN to review. Like, it was not something I ever thought he would review. I just never thought of it being a game he would review. But I've played it before, looking back at it, and the kind of videos he does, such as you know um, having to deal with reviewing good games that are just really difficult, like Ghosts and Goblins. Street Fighter 2010 is a fairly decent game, and then of course Ninja Gaiden. It all makes sense because sometimes he's not just reviewing bad games. Sometimes he'll review games that are just frustrating because it's not because they're bad. It's just because they're just really, really, really difficult and have unfair difficulty spikes and stuff. Um, but are actually still good games with fluent controls. Kid Icarus, I think, fits that category. The controls work. Actually, even though it's an NES game, the music's pretty nice too. Like, it's the first level is underground, I think, because in Super Smash Bros. When that music is in the game and it's like an updated version that sounds more modern and has like an orchestra playing or whatever. It's called Underworld, but it's like really nice, like soothing music for Underworld. You wouldn't think that. Like, the first thing you think of with Underworld is like Hades. It's not sweet and calm. It's mean and fire, fire, fire. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I know I went off on a bit of a tangent, but I'll be finishing up pretty soon. There was a bonus video I wanted to show, um, but I think the video's been going on for a while. I'll just point out a recommendation. I forget the name of the YouTube channel. It appeared in my recommendations. It was a video of I don't. It doesn't make any sense, but it was just really funny. Uh, Presidents play Uno. I think I'll find it that way. Yeah, yeah, this one. It's a few minutes long, but it's like the comment section. You'll love the comment section of it because people are commenting about how heartwarming it is to just see them just getting along, hanging out, and playing Uno together. But it's really funny because they're not even angry at each other anyways or anything. Like we all know the two on the right really hate each other. um, but anyway, check that out when you can. It's really funny. That said, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Click that bell icon to add me notifications. The project I've been working on for the past month is actually almost done. There's just a few things I got to change here and there, and I actually delayed working on it, hoping to get word from a potential sponsor, but I haven't gotten a response. So I've just accepted that I'm not getting any brand affiliate for the video, which I wish I could, but it's not happening. Um, and not to mention I've been busy with work and stuff, but that video will be done soon. I plan to finish it over the before the month is over. We got a few days left. I want to have it done before March, and it's almost there. So stay tuned for that, and also stay tuned, of course, for more Johnny Depp shorts. That's what's really helping the channel a lot, and I really appreciate all the comments about him. And there will still be some more reaction videos, they're just coming less frequently because I'm busy. Anyways, thank you so much.